Hi guys, and welcome to today's video. So seeing as though the weather outside is horrific and there's not much chance of shooting in this, I thought that today I'd record a Q&A video, so to answer some questions that you guys want to know the answers to. So I put out a story on Instagram asking for your questions, and I've got quite a few in. So I've copied them down and we're just going to go through them one by one now. Some of these questions I've answered in a previous video that I did right at the beginning of this year. But a couple of the answers might have changed, or if not, it'll just be good for people watching this video to get the answers to those as well. So without further ado, we'll start. So the first one, nice and positive one here. Have you ever messed up on a shoot? So yes, thankfully nothing that's ever been sort of too dramatic or too bad or anything like that, but probably the most recent example of this that I can think of is I did a shoot a couple of weeks ago, and I'd been shooting outside before I did the studio shots, and when I'd been shooting outside it had been sort of raining a little bit, and I'd got two little tiny rain spots that I'd not noticed on my lens. Didn't think to check my lens before starting the studio shots, so when it got to the end, all of the studio shots had got two very small rain spots on them, which meant individually getting rid of those on every single image, which turned out to be 180 images. So very time consuming. Definitely learned my lesson with that one. So yeah, that's probably the biggest fail that I've had. Thankfully, I've never had anything that's sort of caused any detrimental impact to a client, only to myself. So yeah, that's the first one. So the next question is, what is your favourite lens and what would you suggest as a starting camera? So go through both of those. So the first one, my favourite lens, it's still the Sigma 50mm 1.4 art lens. I love that lens. I use it for not all of my portraiture, a lot of it, not all of it. I actually use the lens that I'm using to record this on, the Sony 28mm f2. I use that for a lot of portrait work where it's for brands, especially where you needing to get full body shots and things. But for headshots, the Sigma's still by far and away my favourite lens. So yeah, Sigma 50mm f1.4 art lens. And on to the second part of that question, what would I suggest as a starting camera? There is no perfect camera for starting with. All the major brands, Sony, Canon, Nikon, Fuji, they all have sort of entry-level cameras. The best thing that I can recommend is go to a camera shop, try out sort of the entry-level cameras of different brands, see which one feels the most comfortable for you, see which of the menu systems you're most comfortable with, which feels the best in your hand, and take it that way. How the camera feels and how comfortable you are with it is much more important, especially when starting out, but even once you've started out. It's much more important how the camera feels and how comfortable you are with it rather than the features of it. So yeah, that's what I'd say for that. Bit of a cop-out, I know. What got you into photography? So again, this is something that I've covered on here before. So going right back to the beginning, the first person to put a camera in my hand was my dad. My dad's been into photography most of his life. He used to have a darkroom in his old house. Unfortunately not got the darkroom equipment anymore, which is a shame, but yeah, so he originally got me into photography, and then I kind of left it for quite a while, probably 8, 9, 10 years, and then credit to my two best friends, and they had a go at me for not mentioning them the last time I answered this question. So my two best friends, Richard and Adam, they both persuaded me to go out, and I actually borrowed one of my dad's cameras at that point. Went out with them to take some pictures and literally never looked back from then. So from then I just went out taking more and more pictures, learning more about cameras, got my own camera again, and then that led to now. So thank you to Richard and Adam as well as to my dad. So yeah, that's what got me into photography. Excuse me. Do you earn a decent living from photography? Well, there are a few different parts to this. One is, as I've mentioned before, photography isn't my only job. I also have another job as well, which I do 3 days a week. And I have to say, I get most of my income from that. With regards to do I earn a decent living from photography? Compared to the amount of time that I spend doing it, yes, there is definitely money in photography. But that comes through hard work, luck and making the most of opportunities. So yes, you can definitely earn a living from photography. Is it easy? No, not at all. In terms of amounts, obviously I'm not going to go into those now, but you can earn very good day rates, but you will only earn them if you've put in the graft and put in enough time and effort into learning your craft beforehand. Otherwise, people aren't going to pay you. So yeah. Next up, this is one that I've also mentioned before. How do you balance photography and everything else in life? To be honest, I'm not very good at it. My life tends to be quite chaotic. As I just mentioned, I have got another job. So I've got that job that I do 3 days a week, but they're 3 long days, so I do that 30 hours a week. Photography, I'll shoot at least once, usually twice a week. And then aside from that, I've got a fiance, I've got a dog, I've got a family, I've got hobbies. So trying to fit all of that in is very difficult at times. Thankfully, I've got a very understanding fiance who understands that this won't be forever and that it's a case of me putting the work in now to get to a position where I can go full time with photography. So yeah, the key to it is trying to make sure you remember to take time out. So one thing for me is that I very, very rarely shoot on Sundays. Sundays I don't work, I don't shoot. Sundays are either for seeing family, spending time with Hannah, doing things in the house. That's my one day where, obviously there were some exceptions, but the vast majority of the time I won't shoot. And that way I know that there's at least one day a week where I don't need to worry about photography, I don't need to worry about my other job. I can just concentrate on everything outside of that. But it is very hard to find a balance, and I'm still very much learning that. Next up, we have best photography purchase you have made. There are 2. The first one is when I switched to Sony, so the camera that I'm filming this on. When I switched from Canon to Sony, a lot of people were surprised by that, but the video capability of the Sony is hugely greater than what I had with Canon, and that's allowed me to make videos such as these, much higher quality videos. I also actually prefer taking photos with the Sony rather than the Canon as well, which surprises some. But yeah, so that's one of them, and the other one I only made last month, which is this. So iPad, this has completely changed my my editing process. So it means that for sort of quicker edits or quick turnarounds, I can edit on the iPad. I've got virtually full Lightroom capability, presets, everything like that, and I can do it a lot faster. I don't have to wait to have my MacBook with me. Obviously that's much smaller, much more portable, and it's really changed things. Plus, even just a case of mid-shoot, I can import a photo onto there, apply a preset through Lightroom, have a look what it's going to look like, and then make any changes to how I'm shooting as and when, rather than doing an entire shoot before I actually see what the results will be like. So that's definitely been a very good purchase as well. How should small brands with limited budgets organise a photo shoot? It is very hard for small brands because starting a brand, you've got huge outlay at the beginning in terms of getting your stock and marketing and things like that. There are 2 ways of thinking about this. One is that to save on budget, you can look for a photographer that's looking to expand their portfolio, so that they will either shoot for free or shoot at a very low cost if they're also looking at building their own portfolio. So both of you benefit from that. And the same with models as well. So a model that's looking to create a bigger portfolio. Or the other thinking about it is you get out what you put in. So to actually budget a certain amount for your photo shoot, for your images, for your website, for your social media, and look at getting a better return on investment through actually putting a lot of money into it. Or, as I say, you can go completely the other end, which is spend no money, which means that you can put that money into your launch and into your clothing, etc., and take it that way. So the 2 methods of thinking, I don't think that one's any better than the other because they've both got the drawbacks. So yeah, it's down to personal preference really. Probably better off asking somebody from a brand that question. What is your editing process? So I think I'm actually going to do a video on this, but for me it depends on the size of the shoot. So if I've shot like a wedding, I won't use the iPad. I put all the images onto the MacBook, make sure that they're backed up, import them into Lightroom, cull the ones that I don't like or the ones that are out of focus or where somebody's blinking, etc. Once I've done that, put them into groups. So, for example, ceremony shots after the ceremony, first dance, things like that. And then just work through them bit by bit. I'll go through them in Lightroom. Sometimes I'll apply a preset and then edit from there. Other times I'll just work straight on an image and then copy those settings across to the other images in that group. I might use Photoshop on some of the images. Don't use Photoshop on all images. Don't use it that much, to be fair. Mainly just for that kind of tidying things up or stuff like that. And then export and they're all done. If it's a smaller shoot, then I will do the same process, but I'll do it on the iPad just because it's faster. So yeah, that's pretty much it really. That's like an overview, but I will do another video going into more detail on that at some point as well. What makes a good photo? That's a hard question to answer. I suppose in terms of what makes good photography or a good photo, I think it's something that makes you think or something that connects with you when you look at it. So this is more talking about sort of general photography rather than brand work. But in general, if you look at a photo and it makes you feel something or it makes you think something or you connect with it and something in that image resonates with you, then that's what makes it a good photo. Yes, there's things like it being sharp, the composition, stuff like that, but for me, all of that is irrelevant when it comes to the true meaning of photography, which is to make people feel something or make people think something. So yeah, that's quite a philosophical way of looking at it, but yeah, that's the way that I look at it. Ideal brand to work with. Well, there are a couple of ways of looking at that. Ideal brand to work with. On one hand, there are certain brands that I would love to work with longer term. So obviously looking much longer term, looking at moving into high fashion and looking at all of the massive fashion houses to work with the likes of Burberry, Gucci, Dior, etc. Obviously, much further down the line, that's definitely a goal. Or there's the other way of looking at it, which is the ideal client to work with, because that's the question. Ideal client to work with is the one that pays the most money. Photography is a business as well. So yeah, but no, in all seriousness, I do want to move sort of further into fashion and high-end fashion. So yeah, if you're going to set yourself a goal, it might as well be a big one. So yeah, that's where I'd like to go with my photography. So last couple now. That takes us nicely into the next one, which is what are your top 3 goals in photography? So let's see. The first one is to go full-time as a photographer, so a full-time freelance photographer. I don't think I'm far off. I think probably 12 to 18 months. Being conservative. Maybe a bit less. That's the first one. Second one is, as I mentioned, to move into sort of shooting high fashion and working with brands that are that way. And then the third one is to get my first publication. So to have my first publication either online or in print. But yeah, they're my top 3 goals. Favourite shoot to date? There have been many. There have been a lot of shoots that I've enjoyed. I enjoyed the vast majority of my shoots, to be fair. But there have been lots that I've really, really enjoyed. Worked with some fantastic models, worked with some great photographers as well. Most memorable would probably have to be the campaign that I shot in March of this year in Lanzarote. So I shot a campaign for 4 days in Lanzarote for a brand called Out the Box. And aside from the fact that I was shooting in Lanzarote, where I used to live, aside from the fact that I was shooting in the sun for 4 days, I was also working with Jamie, who's a really good friend of mine, as well as a fantastic model. Beth in Sowerby, an amazing model. First time I worked with her, and she was really great to work with. And also the guys from the brand were absolutely amazing. So yeah, we had a really, really good time on that shoot. So I'd say that's probably my most memorable shoot. And then the last question is your favourite location. Now again, this is one that I've spoke about before. It hasn't changed. It's still Castlefield Bowl in Manchester. I shot there last week, shot there this week, and it just gives you everything. It's a really, really gritty space in some parts and then really clean in other parts, like on the bridge. You can take 12 different pictures there and it'll look like you're in 12 different places. I love how versatile it is. I love how synonymous it is with Manchester, and I do most of my shooting in Manchester. So yeah, still Castlefield Bowl. So that's all of the questions for today. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you have got any more questions, either DM me on Instagram or add them in the comments here. But aside from that, let me know if you've enjoyed this. Pop a like down there as well as a comment. Make sure you subscribe. It makes a huge, huge difference if you subscribe. And aside from that, as always, I shall see you in the next video.